don't believe what I just saw.
This is one of the great moments in the history of baseball.
I believe in miracles. Yes.
Is this the dagger?
October 31st. Don't call it a comeback. We've been here almost a year. On today's episode, the original Rocket makes his debut. A 3-team trade in the NFL that sets things up for a Super Bowl run. McEnroe suspended for the first time. A 13-year-old surfer shows the world what tough really is. Marcel Dion reaches a milestone in rare air. The Jackie Robinson of the NBA begins a historic career. An error sinks the Mets in the World Series. Plus, our Halloween dork draft sees us debating who were the scariest opponents to face in the history of team sports. All this and much more on this Hallows Eve special edition of This Day in Sports.
Fantastic. All right. Well,
drive safely, everyone.
But there's more. There's more to the show than the intro.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, you got the part. But the important thing I want to just point out was this podcast would not be possible without the assistance of Cabin Barber and Gentleman Supply. And today, you may have noticed we're at Cabin again, but we're all sitting separately in barber chairs.
These are not COVID protocols.
No, not at all. Not at all. We are up here because every year Cabin has an event called Cabin Fest, and Cabin Fest is a great event. This year it's November 10th. So if it's November 10th in the year 2023, and you're listening or watching this, you have the opportunity to go attend Cabin Fest. We all highly recommend it. Was there last year. Frank was there last year. Had a great time. You go down there, you can get a haircut, you can get a hat made for you. You can get beers, food. There's a band playing. It's a big party. Yeah. That Louis, who owns Cabin, puts on called Cabin Fest. If you're in the area, it's in the Port Credit area. Well worth it. And you can get a ticket on Eventbrite. And they do sell out. So if you want to go to Cabin Fest, I will be there. Frank says he probably will be there. Matt is maybe, and Mike is not sure. But you know what? You might meet and greet someone here from this cast, this podcast at Cabin Fest. Yeah, so
they raise money too.
And they raise money too. And Frank's going to figure that out and tell us what all we're raising money for this year. So go look into that. But I'll tell you this: if you don't get to go to Cabin Fest, at least come down to Cabin. Get a cut, get a shave, get a ton of compliments, because Cabin is the place to be if you're a gentleman, or just know a gentleman, or wish you were a gentleman, or whatever reason you just want to stop by and get a belt buckle. Check it out online at cabinforlife.ca. Cabinforlife.ca. Check out everything about Cabin, and then probably a link to Cabin Fest as well. And Frank's going to tell us.
It's on the website. So they have a link to it.
And what is the charity, Frank?
The charity. Sorry, talking to the mic here.
Yeah.
The proceeds will be benefiting Epilepsy South Central Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a great time for a great cause. Head on down there. I got a haircut there, guys, last year.
Did you?
Yeah, and it was like there was a lot of music playing really loud, and a woman gave me a haircut with all this music playing while she was dancing around, and as my wife was watching, just so nervous.
Really? Eh?
Yeah, but it's free. Free haircut.
They've got tattoos.
Free tattoos.
Yeah. Did you say they would make you a hat?
Yeah, there was a guy, haberdasher? Yeah. The haberdashers sell a hat or make a hat?
Or is that like a
haberdashery? Isn't haberdashery clothing?
Yeah. No, haberdashery is like a hat.
Is it hat?
Yeah. Yeah. So
what's a tobacconist?
So
tobacconist.
Every sports fan on earth has turned this off already.
No, it's
as we get deeper into the hat
world. Well, then let's wrap it up by saying a guy had a bunch of leather. He took your head size and he made a hat. Like he put together a hat for you. Kind of like a hat you would see, like like the kind of hats like Gord Downie wore with a feather in them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Be that kind of a hat.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Frank's gonna go get one. Frank's he's getting in his car.
This bit hasn't gone on long enough.
He's driving to that guy's house in Sudbury to get a hat.
So we're in the chairs today. The chairs.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, here comes the hat.
And there we go. So there we go.
Leather and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
style.
So this is Frank's hat. He wears this. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true.
It looks like something Willie O'Ree would wear.
Thank you. Great way of putting it.
Or Joe Frazier.
Friends, come back some other time and listen to our hat show. But this time, it is October 31st, Halloween, and we are going to get into the happenings from October 31st throughout the history of sports. And Matt, I bet you got one you want to lead off with.
I'll start us out
Sure.
in 1976, Halloween. Falcons quarterback Scott Hunter became the first and only QB in NFL history to have a perfect passer rating in a game where he threw for less than 140 yards. This was during a 23-20 Atlanta win over New Orleans. Hunter was 10 for 11 for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns and a 158.3 passer rating, which is, of course, the highest possible score.
So now what do we think? Does that mean passer rating is a deeply flawed statistic? Is
Yeah.
that generally what we're... Because that's not that great a day.
Well, and also he went 10 for 11. So how can you be perfect if... So, I mean, here's what you need. You need, for a perfect passer rating, you need at least just a 77.5% completion percentage.
Seems a little low.
You need at least 12.5 yards per attempt. There's a percentage of TDs per attempt and no interceptions.
And a hat.
And
Also a
But it doesn't-
homemade hat.
It doesn't take into account like sacks or fumbles or rushing or
Right.
anything like that.
So it's kind of all positive in a lot of ways. Too much positive in a way.
Yeah,
perhaps.
I guess. There are other systems. But anyway, that didn't seem like a great day, but he did have a perfect passer rating.
And I've never heard of that guy till right now.
Scott Hunter.
Same here.
2003, while lying belly down on her surfboard in the waters at Tunnels Beach in Kauai, Hawaii, 13-year-old surfer Bethany Hamilton had her left arm bitten off by a 14-foot tiger shark. After helping her to shore, friends fashioned a tourniquet out of a rash guard and got her to the hospital. Though she was in hypovolemic shock and had lost over 60% of the blood in her body, she survived. More amazingly, she returned to the ocean to surf about a month later. She taught herself to surf one-handed and began competitive surfing again just 3 months later. Hamilton credits her family and her faith for her quick recovery, and she has become a noted public speaker and published several books about perseverance and faith, and her story was told in the 2011 movie Soul Surfer, which stars Anna Sophia Robb as Hamilton and Dennis Quaid and Helen Hunt as her parents. Wow.
Yeah.
That is tough.
Yeah, that is tough.
Yeah.
Well, in 1964, October 31st, 1964, Kelso, racing in his final race in New York, wins his 5th consecutive Jockey Club Gold Cup in a record time, finishing the 2-mile race in 3:19:20. So that's, I believe, 3 minutes? I don't know. 3 hours?
Yeah, 3 hours.
Breaking
3 hours and 19 minutes.
breaking his own course record
Horses were slower back then.
passing Round Table as the all-time money-making thoroughbred in history. The record still stands. Kelso won an unprecedented 5 consecutive National Horse of the Year awards between 1960 and 64. No one else has more than 3 and is often mentioned as one of the greatest horses of the 20th century.
Sure he is. Yeah.
Kelso.
October 31st, 1987. Now playing for the New York Rangers, center Marcel Dion became the third player in NHL history to reach 700 goals scored during an 8-2 loss to the Islanders. He joined Phil Esposito and Gordie Howe. The third to reach 700 goals. There are 8 now.
Marcel Dion may be one of the most underrated players. Like he doesn't get mentioned.
Well, you know who might surprise you is Mike Gardner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another one who you probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing those two as players, but
Yeah. 1950, Capitals small forward Earl Lloyd scored 6 points, had 5 assists and 10 rebounds in a game versus the Royals in Rochester, which Washington lost 78-70. More importantly, Lloyd became the first black player in NBA history during the game. Lloyd, who'd been drafted earlier that year in the 9th round, had played briefly with the Harlem Globetrotters after graduating from West Virginia State in April. Lloyd's historic appearance would be quickly followed by Boston's Chuck Cooper 1 day later and New York's Sweetwater Clifton 4 days later. Lloyd ended up playing a decade in the NBA, winning a championship in 1955 with Syracuse, and was later head coach of the Detroit Pistons in the early 70s, making him also just the 3rd black head coach in league history. That's kind of amazing that I don't think anybody knows that guy's name.
No.
He is, it is exactly the same thing as Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that the NBA should really do a better job of celebrating that guy.
Definitely.
And those other men I mentioned too, that couldn't have been much easier than what Jackie Robinson went through.
No.
It was only 3 years later. That had to be tough.
It seems like I think that people just assume that because it's basketball is more, there's not, it's not considered like like baseball was, I guess, in some ways.
Not at the time.
and
No,
all,
it wasn't as popular. It's more popular now, but at the time, basketball was not the national sport. But
no, but that should get more recognition,
especially
for sure.
now.
We've got recognition of like Willie O'Ree.
Yeah, the
like
NHL has kind of gone back and tried to do something about it. That guy's name should be known more. Anyway.
I think that's a great cause.
We're doing our best to get it out there.
We are doing our cause, and that's all we're going to talk about at Cabin Fest as well. So that's where
we're
it
just
starts.
We're just going to lecture people about what they don't know.
Oh, wow.
Our podcast is really fun.
1986. Wait, it's not even.
It is me.
It's
It's
not even
definitely me. It's okay.
Sandy has 32
Hey,
of these.
I've
Let
got
him
a
go.
bunch to get going. Let's go. Hey, you know what? In 1981, Vince Van Patten, son of actor Dick Van Patten, who of course was the father on 8 is Enough, upset top-seeded John McEnroe 6-3, 7-5 in the semifinal of the Seiko Super Tennis in Tokyo. Seiko Super Tennis, Dick Van Patten, 1981.
8 is enough.
Just bury all that in your head. It's so tasty. This is the biggest win of his career. He was ranked number 83 in the world at the time. The next day, he won the finals too, recording his first and only ATP title of his career.
Man, are we going for the younger audience?
Well, no, I'll tell you for the younger kids out there. But you know when they used to have the battle of the network stars?
Yeah.
Dick Van Patten was always involved in those.
Yeah,
he was always involved.
He was kind of the captain, wasn't he, of the team?
I think so. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, and probably you don't if you're I don't know how much younger you are.
70.
Yeah, 100 years old. They used to have a thing which was the battle of network stars, which was ABC, NBC, and CBS would have their stars compete in athletic events against each other for points, and they were pretty competitive. They actually really wanted, like Scott Baio wanted to win the 100-meter dash.
Yeah.
It
was all outdoors, right? It felt like kind of a Survivor Challenge feel or something. Like that.
It was a lot of tight, small shorts.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Like absolutely. A lot of very snug shorts.
Yes.
For everybody. But they're on YouTube. You can watch them.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
I think they should bring that back.
You're right.
1986. Sticking with McEnroe, John McEnroe is defeated, fined, and suspended all in the same match. So after being upset in the quarterfinals of the Paris Open by Spain's Sergio Casal, McEnroe was fined $3,000 for his on-court antics and yelling at the officials. His behavior also earned him a 6-week suspension from the WTA. At one point, he allegedly shouted at chair umpire Jeremy Shales, "You are the worst umpire I've ever seen in my life. You'll never work another one of my matches again."
Matt got an allegedly.
I got an allegedly.
Did you notice
in
that?
there.
I didn't write an allegedly.
Oh, I know.
He added it just in case there's a legal battle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better safe than sorry, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But
can you imagine you're out there on the dance floor, Cabin Fest, and someone walks up and just goes, "You've been served"? Because you didn't say allegedly.
Because you didn't say allegedly.
Because you didn't say allegedly.
Could
Could you imagine? But don't you think, like...
and then they give you a hat.
I just want to say...
You've been served a hat.
In baseball, like, you can be mad if you're a batter and you can yell at the ump, but you'll get tossed or something. Then your manager comes out and kind of backs you up, right? Tennis, they don't have that. They should have a guy in tennis, a coach, who comes and yells for you.
A buffer,
like a second, in a duel or something.
Tennis caddy.
A tennis caddy. Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
Throws
That's
his
Frank.
hat on the court, kicks it around.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I would like to introduce that into tennis.
Sure, McEnroe would have liked that back then too, yeah.
Kind of like maybe a paralegal in a way. They know all the rules.
They know the rules.
Yeah.
The same guy who would serve you with papers for not saying allegedly would also have your back if you're yelling at the ump. That's a good job.
October 31st, 2015. With 2 runners on and 1 out at Citi Field, Mets second baseman Daniel Murphy let a possible double play grounder go right under his glove, allowing the Royals to eventually score 3 unearned runs in the 8th inning and come back to win Game 4 of the World Series 5-3 and take a commanding 3-1 lead in the series. It was Kansas City's 7th come-from-behind win of that year's playoffs alone. They also came back and won their first World Series title in 30 years on the next night, taking advantage of more Mets defensive miscues to win it in 5. I remember the Murphy play, and I remember the errant Lucas Duda throw home in the next game. You remember that one where Hosmer scored?
Yep.
But that's truly amazing that the Royals won 8 come-from-behind games that playoff year alone. Several of those against a certain team.
I guess
talk about.
I guess the formula there is that
bullpen.
the bullpen, exactly. So they kept him in games, even if it was there. And but I always remember Daniel Murphy just constantly kept putting that chapstick on every night, every time we played chapstick.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought eventually he was just going to have like a fanny pack with all his little chapsticks in it and take it out. It was like it just got so annoying.
You think they could get him a better one that would last longer than a?
I think it was a nervous habit.
I see.
And then he probably was putting chapstick on as that ball rolled.
Oh man,
the grounder.
Shit! I called time.
Do you remember, would he step out of the box to chapstick up?
No.
Did he? No, his only chapstick mode was in the field.
Yeah.
Or
I think it would be
something
great
like
if he
this.
did it in the
Got out of the
batter's
box, quickly did a
Time.
chapstick. And that's when they said we should speed this up.
You got to
a little
have
bit.
smooth lips.
Smooth lips Murphy.
Not smooth glove Murphy.
No, just smooth lips.
He was a good hitter, but okay.
October 31st, 1942. 21-year-old Montreal Canadiens legend Maurice Rocket Richard made his NHL debut on Halloween night, recording a second period assist for his first career point during a 3-2 win over the Bruins at the Montreal Forum. 21 years old in 1942. Wow. Yep. Legend is born.
1999, rookie quarterback Tim Couch throws a 56-yard Hail Mary TD pass to Kevin Johnson as time expired to give the expansion Cleveland Browns their first win, a 21-16 victory over New Orleans. That season, Couch managed to throw 15 TDs and 13 interceptions, despite being sacked an NFL-high 56 times in just 14 games started. I think that's like, was that like 4 a game?
something like that.
How did you not wear your
quite.
Tim Couch jersey tonight?
It's in my bag. I forgot. I'm wearing my orange Halloween. This Hail Mary was also very lucky. It was tipped, like 3 Saints jumped up and probably could have intercepted it, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Boop. And but credit to Kevin Johnson for being in the right place, and he got it, and credit to Couch for throwing it that far.
Led the Browns to a Super Bowl win that year.
Alternate history.
No.
They won 2 games that year, and
You said that you highlighted there the expansion Browns.
Yeah.
Because very clearly they were not the Browns left and became the Ravens.
That's right.
Colts left Baltimore. They went over there to Indianapolis.
And
but
Cleveland didn't have a football team for like 3 seasons.
and then they just created them again.
Yeah.
So they don't have, but they continue the tradition of the Browns because the Ravens don't. That's correct.
That's
Am I
right. Yes.
Like Jim Brown's number is not retired in Baltimore. It's
No,
retired.
that's
in
right.
Cleveland,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Which is great.
but stats wise, it gets a bit murky, doesn't it?
I don't think so. I
Okay,
think,
good.
I think
No, I think
Sandy's
that's it.
right.
Okay.
Baltimore has started as a totally new franchise.
Okay.
They don't like Brian Sipe, like he said, Brian Sipe's number is not retired.
Sure,
that
sure.
kind of thing.
So it's not like the Winnipeg Jets situation.
With the Atlanta
yeah,
Thrashers.
So Arizona has all our records
Yeah.
from Winnipeg, and we have the Thrashers records. And that's it.
Which
and it's
is
weird.
great. Everybody's favorite team.
I will say, just to round this off here, Ty Detmer started the other 2 games that season, and he had 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And Couch's passer rating, which we talked about earlier that season, for the season, it was 73.2, and Detmer's was 75.7. So Detmer, but Couch got both their only 2 wins. So I'm not saying they should have started Detmer more. I'm just saying, what do you know? Passer rating.
That would have got them the Super Bowl.
I'm just saying, I don't know. What do you know? Passer rating.
Hey, if you get a hat
Frank,
made,
make a clip of that one for the old Instagram.
I'm
account.
putting that on Mike's hat
I'm
that gets
just
made
saying-
at Cabin Fest.
I'm just saying,
Thank you.
I don't know. Passer rating.
I'm going to start throwing in random words at the end of my stuff, too.
Okay, October 31st, 2009. After 5 years after being kicked out of the Big East Conference for a lack of competitiveness, the Temple University football team guaranteed itself at least a 500 season with a 27-24 win over Navy. After a historic run of bad play, they won just 1 out of 22 games in 2004 and 2005 and won just 8 times in 6 seasons between 91 and 96. Fourth-year head coach Al Golden led them to a 9-4 record that year and an appearance in the legendary Eagle Bank Bowl.
Wow.
And their first postseason bowl game in 30 years. After resurrecting the program at Temple, of course, Golden would leave Philly for greener pastures of the University of Miami Hurricanes a year later.
Wow, that is greener pastures.
That a little bit is.
Yeah, wow. In 1987, October 31st, 1987, the Bills, Colts, and Rams completed a 3-way trade that sent all-pro running back Eric Dickerson from L.A. to Indianapolis, Linebacker Cornelius Bennett went from Indy to Buffalo, and the Rams received running backs Greg Bell and Owen Gill, plus 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks combined from the 2 other teams. I didn't dive deep into what those picks were. On the surface, obviously, that doesn't seem like the Rams did too great in that trade, but who did they pick? That's the key thing I have to look into.
3 first-round picks seems okay, but yeah, I don't
depends
know
who they got.
who they picked.
Because you want to have Dickerson and you want to have Cornelius Bennett. Yeah. But this is when I became a fan of the Colts. I love Dickerson. This is right in the moments of like, yeah, I really like this team. So that is going to be the birth, Halloween 1987, of my fandom of the Indianapolis Colts. We can trace it back. Yeah,
mark that day.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I feel like it might be time for some quick hits. Am I wrong?
Sandy has one more left there. Right below.
Okay, special Halloween.
Bonus round.
It's not scary. So, I mean, and then again, fandom. 2008, University of North Carolina men's basketball team is ranked number 1 in the official AP preseason top 25 rankings, marking the first time in the polls history that a team was a unanimous preseason number 1 since it began. Head coach Roy Williams, Tar Heels proved everyone right, though, losing just 4 games all season and winning the national championship in April. And I am a Tar Heels fan. So that is double fandom, double shot fandom.
Is that where it started?
I don't know. Passer rating. Halloween.
And hats.
Hats, yes. Quick hits.
Quick hits.
Do it.
1954, in a game versus San Francisco, Chicago Bears rookie tight end Harlan Hill set a team record by catching 4 TD passes during a 31-27 win over the 49ers. The rookie had over 100 receiving yards in 4 of his first 6 NFL games. The team record for TDs in a game still stands, though it was tied by Mike Ditka in 1963.
Quick hits. 1997, San Antonio Spurs forward Tim Duncan, that year's number 1 overall pick, scored 15 points versus the Denver Nuggets in his first ever regular season game. That day began an NBA record streak of 1,360 consecutive games with at least 1 field goal made.
Quick hits. 1973, Mets pitcher Tom Seaver won his second of 3 National League Cy Young Awards. He led the NL in complete games and ERA, but he became the first pitcher ever to win the award without winning at least 20 games. He finished that season with a 19-10 record.
Quick hits. 2004, Vijay Singh became golf's first ever $10 million man. He taking home $900,000 for winning the Chrysler Championships by 5 strokes. This marks the 9th PGA event he won that season. Amazing. Tying Tiger Woods for the most in a season since 1950.
Quick hit, 1998, University of Tennessee quarterback T. Martin set an NCAA Division I football record by completing 23 consecutive pass attempts during a 49-14 Volunteers win over South Carolina. Martin finished the game 23 of 24 for 315 yards and 4 TDs.
Quick hits. 2003, the Canucks set a new NHL record streak when Trevor Linden scored the first goal versus Phoenix that Vancouver won 4-1. The goal made him the first team in NHL. The goal made them, not him, made them the first team in NHL history to score the first goal of a game in 11 consecutive games to start the season. Interesting stat. Quick hit, 2003.
One more round?
Yeah.
2010, in Arlington, Madison Baumgartner, a.k.a. Mason Saunders,
Thank you.
threw 8 shutout innings, allowing just 3 hits as the Giants defeated Texas 4-0 to take a 3-1 lead in the World Series. They clinched their first championship since moving to San Francisco in 1958, a day later.
Oh.
Quick hit, 2014, a massive group of legends entered the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, as Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, Frank Thomas, Joe Torre, Tony La Russa, and Bobby Cox were all inducted together. That's a pretty good class.
Quick hits, and back to the horses. 2015, after becoming the 12th horse ever to win the American Horse Racing Triple Crown, American Pharoah wins the $5 million Breeders' Cup Stakes by 6.5 lengths in his final race before retirement. He became just the second horse in history to win all 4 races in the same year after Whirlaway in 1941. I've talked about 3 horses now in this past, half hour? Not bad.
Birthdays.
Hey.
Birthdays. So these are Halloween birthdays.
Yeah, Halloween birthdays.
So
No horses.
No horses.
I think I'm done with horses now.
In 1887, NHL Hall of Famer Newsy Lalonde,
Hey, a Matt Kippen
a
favorite.
favorite of mine, was born in Cornwall, Ontario. As we all know, Newsy Lalonde picked up his nickname from working in a newspaper plant.
Yep.
when he was growing up.
That's right. Long-time listeners will know
Made it
that.
on 2 shows.
He's made it on 2 shows.
Newsy's doing it, man.
1916, Ken Keltner, the third baseman who famously stopped DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak, was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Keltner, of course, during that year when DiMaggio had that hitting streak going, made 2 unbelievable plays, diving down the third baseline to stop the hitting streak at 56 games. And after that, DiMaggio had, 17 more games he had a hit in?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Well, I said I wouldn't talk about horses, but I'm sure going to talk about this stud. In 1963, Hall of Fame slugger Fred McGriff was born in Tampa, Florida.
The crime horse.
Yeah, not his nickname.
Right, no.
Not his nickname.
Damn it.
In 1987, NHL Messier and I believe Clancy Award-winning left-winger Nick Foligno was born in Buffalo, New York.
1953, NBA point guard and head coach John Lucas, born in Durham, North Carolina.
1959, NHL All-Star Stanley Cup winner Mats Naslund in Timrå, Sweden.
1887, Newsy Lalonde.
Oh, no.
I have another
No.
fact.
Good Lord.
He played his whole career with the Canadians except for one game as a player, which he played with the Americans. Isn't that crazy? The New York Americans. So he played with the Canadians and the Americans.
One game with the Americans.
One game with the Americans.
If you want to check out more about Newsy Lalonde, check out the Newsy podcast.
Matt has his own
Kippens.
Extra, it's called.
Extra. It's 7 minutes long, so it's just a quick hit in itself.
Yep, that's right.
I got one more birthday here before anyone jumps in. Mike, you're okay with that? Yep. You got one more?
Yeah.
Okay, I got 1968. One-time NBA All-Star in 2001 with Toronto, Antonio Davis in Oakland, California. Met Antonio Davis once. Not a happy guy.
Oh.
No, it was a bad one.
Just that night, or like in general, you think?
Just seemed real grumpy.
I see.
And it didn't really go great.
He had issues with Canada, remember? He
didn't want to be here.
He didn't want his kids going to Canadian schools.
Well, I'll tell
learning
you.
that metric system.
Do you remember when the Raptors were going to play in like Newfoundland and then there was a flood?
Yeah.
And they couldn't play?
Yeah.
He had just gotten back from Newfoundland when I met him and he was not happy about that trip.
Okay, fair enough.
But it is Halloween,
Hey,
Matt.
speaking of surly people, how about one more birthday? Legendary NCAA football head coach Nick Saban.
Thank you.
Born in Fairmont, West Virginia, notoriously grumpy, fitting our theme for today. Those horses are grumpy too.
I'll tell you. I was just going to say, it is Halloween. So, Matt, do you have any deaths?
I do. Unfortunately, in 1983, Hall of Fame Chicago Bears owner and head coach George Halas died at age 88. Papa Bear.
Matt, do you have any, Mike, do you have any deaths?
No.
All right. 2018 Hall of Fame slugger William McCovey died at age 80.
And a love died on this date in 2011, Sandy.
Whoa. What?
There was a divorce.
Oh, there is a
You've
divorce.
got an earmark down there.
That's right. I did earmark a divorce. 2011, Kim Kardashian divorced NBA player Chris Humphries after just 26 days.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yep. And then we have above there, Larry Bird also got a divorce in 76 from his high school sweetheart. This has been great. I mean, a lot of...
I dare you to tie that into the draft now.
Oh, wow.
I'm looking for your segue.
Well, no, it's Halloween. We mentioned that it's Halloween. So we thought we would do a draft of the scariest teams to face. Scariest. And we decided our own formats could be, whatever you think is considered scary. We kept it pretty simple with the 4 major sports in North America. But these are the scariest teams that you can possibly face.
Okay.
Now, I have some haunted dice I'm going to roll.
Sandy's going to do his pretend roll.
Yep, let's get a pretend to roll. Let's see what do I want. All right. All right, here we go. All right, so I'll give you numbers here. Here we go, Matt. So here we go. 3-sided dice. Matt. So, Matt.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
are going to be picking in scariest teams second.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that
It's
is...
a scary spot to be.
And Mike, I'm going to roll your die now. This is
great listening.
This is great. People at home must be having a great time. I can only imagine what it's like to be home now. Mike, you'll pick first.
Some more newsy facts?
No, we're good.
No, for the love of God.
No, we're good, I think. Mike, you're going to pick first in these scariest opponents.
Okay, this is totally right up my alley. This pick, it's one of my favorite teams in any sport of all time. I'm going to take the 1988-89 Detroit Piston Bad Boys as my NBA team that was scary to face.
Yep.
Not only were they really good, they won 2 championships, but they would beat the living hell out of you at all as well. 37-4 at home that year, allowed under 97 points a game, and lost just 2 playoff games that entire year. Swept the Celtics, Bucks, and Lakers in the playoffs that year. That was a really good team and very physical and intimidating. And I hate to be the one who keeps bringing this up, but they're the only team that Jordan has a losing record against in the playoffs.
Well, that's a great pick. I think that would have been my first pick in the basketball as well.
Were they the highest? Did they have like the highest penalties out of all the teams?
I'm sure, yeah, personal
must have
fouls
been.
and ejections and stuff. I don't know, but you have to assume.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you got?
Well, I was talking about the Bears earlier, so I'm going to go NFL, and I'm going to take the 1985 Chicago Bears, the monsters of the Midway, the Super Bowl Shuffle. You got Richard Dent, Otis Wilson, Leslie Frazier, Mike Singletary. You got the Fridge. I just think that was a terrifying defense and just a terrifying team to play against.
Just Singletary's eyes alone.
Yeah.
You know, like those shots of him
Oh,
looking
yeah,
at
yeah.
this terrifying. That's scary enough.
The cold, seeing the breath
Yeah.
come, just terrifying.
Well, I'm going to spread the love on the sports and right into hockey and the legendary Broad Street Bullies.
Yeah.
74-75 Flyers. They won back-to-back cups, but 74-75 is when they added Reggie Leach from the Golden State Seals, California Golden Seals. And so that was the boost that even got them to the next cup. But you already have Bobby Clark and Dave Schultz and obviously net Bernie Prompt. But that team was so tough and rough, and then they added Reggie Leach on top of it. I'm from Flin Flon, so I have a bias, obviously,
Sure,
that
yeah.
Reggie Leach and Bobby Clark played together for the Flin Flon Bombers. If you ever look up their stats together for the Bombers, it's unbelievable. So Clark must have been beside himself to get his old buddy Reggie Leach back with him there. And that team was absolutely dominant. They would kill you on this.
They were kind of,
in every single way.
Yeah.
Is that 74-75?
74-75.
I think that's also when Dave Schultz set the single season penalty
minutes.
record.
472
Yeah. That's
yeah.
a lot of
hard to
penalty.
do.
There is no doubt that that team did everything they could to win. And on top of it all, they had a great goaltender.
Yeah.
So they could score, they could stop you from scoring, and they could kill you. So I think that's a good combination for the old Broad Street Bullies.
Yeah.
That's going to be my first pick in the NHL.
That's correct. In keeping with that theme, I'm going to stick to the NHL as well. And for my second pick, I'm going to take the early 80s Boston Bruins, which were a similar vein to those Flyers. Didn't win quite as much, but they were willing to go into the crowd and fight the audience.
Very important.
I think that gives them sort of a next level intimidation factor. Terry O'Reilly, Al Secord, Stan Jonathan, Mike Milbury, they had a team full of nut jobs. Not as good a team as the Flyers, but perhaps I don't think it'd be fun to go into Boston Garden and play that team at that time.
No.
That's my pick, second pick.
All right, I'm gonna do the first baseball pick.
All right.
Me, right?
Sure.
So I'm gonna twist it up a bit here.
All right, twist it up.
I'm picking a team for Halloween that has a scary name
Okay.
and is also scary to their own home fans. So I am, and their supporters, I'm picking the 1899 Cleveland Spiders. Because they
Was
went
Newsy on that team?
No, but they went 20 and 134 for a .130 winning percentage. They finished 84 games back of first place and had 6 separate losing streaks of at least 10 games. They had finished with a run differential of -723. That's a scary.
Yeah, I have to give you credit because I never thought about doing scary bad.
And they're the Spiders.
Yeah.
I like that Kippen felt he had to grab that team first, too.
Oh, you better get that one.
better snag the Spiders early.
Yeah, you better. You're lucky you got those guys.
Damn it.
Well, there's some sports you've got a few choices that you really want to go with, and there's others that you're like, it's what is scary, what is it? Is it dominance? Is it you getting your ass kicked? Exactly what it is. So I think if I circle back to the NBA, I've got a couple of those teams. I think the team though I'm gonna go with is the 85-86 Celtics. Because that's Bird as prime MVP of the league and the finals. You still had McHale and Parrish and that stuff, and they would just beat you every which way. And sometimes Bird would just decide that he was going to shoot left-handed that night. So that's enough to say that no matter what they did, considering not so much the physicality, but just more like you knew that every single night they were going to beat you in any way they could do it. Not that they didn't lack the physical, But I think that was a team that could definitely kill you, and you'd be scared to play them every time.
That was a team that had Bill Walton as a sixth man, too.
That's right. Yeah.
That was a really good I think they were 40-1 at home that year.
That's why that particular team, too. That's the team, I believe, that beat the Rockets in the finals there. And they were great.
They were.
That's scary.
It's me, right? So I need an NFL team, and I am going to take the 1976 Pittsburgh Steelers. Mean Joe Green. The Steelers at that time in 1976 had Mean Joe Green, Mel Blount, Donnie Shell, Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, and L.C. Greenwood. They allowed at one point during that season 26 points in 9 games. In a 9-game span, they allowed 26 points. 3 players, Mean Joe Green, Blount, and Jack Lambert, all had been Defensive Player of the Year by the time that team was assembled, too. That is, so that's my pick for scariest NFL team.
Is that the 75-76 or the 76-70? Is that when Blount had like 11 interceptions? Or?
Yeah, they did. It's the 76 season. There is no 75-76, but that was their best year defensively. They did not win the Super Bowl that year.
Right. Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
Their defensive numbers are absurd that year.
What do you got, Matt?
Oh,
going back to 1775.
No, but I'm going to stay on scary. Yeah, I think this is going to sink me in this thing, but I'm going to stay on scary teams for the fans. Like the 1974-70, I'm going hockey, 74-75 Washington Capitals.
Oh, that's cool team.
Their first year in the league. They went 8-76-5. They lost 39 of their 40 road games and lost 17 games in a row at one point. But my favorite is that they lost 4 games by 10 or more goals. That's just defenseman Bill Mickelson was a -82.
Yeah, we talked about him once in the show. It's one of those unbeatable records.
He only appeared in 59 games.
They shut him down. Like, you got to stop.
That's a scary team.
That's a scary team, and I love that I give you credit for having the format of just a bad team, like the scary.
I'm switching it up,
I like it, and that's going to put a little pressure on our judge to say which way they want to go with that too, which I like that a lot. I'm going to go to, let's see here. I'm the only one that has to pick football. Hockey is off the books now. Hockey's done. And then baseball has 2 picks left there. And I think I can go back to that. But I still think you know what? I was trying to think I got down to 2 in baseball, maybe 3. But I think the 98 Yankees were scary because I remember one big thing about that 1998 Yankees team. I mean, obviously they're a great team. Jeter, Williams, Martinez. It seemed like Paul O'Neill hit the ball every time he had to, and killed every team. Every time, my recollection of that team watching them was Paul O'Neill was the killer in that team. He could absolutely. He was such a clutch hitter that year.
Sorry, what year are you talking?
1998 Yankees.
Oh yeah.
And the bullpen obviously was great. Pettit, Wells, Cone. Jeter already in '98, pretty early on in his career. Anytime they were losing, he was still smiling because he just knew that they were going to win anyway. And then he had so much confidence, I couldn't believe it. You could see the other team you could not get under his skin. You couldn't get him rattled. And all that team was so confident the whole time. That's why I think that's probably the scariest team I've ever seen.
I think 98, eh?
Yeah,
I'd go 96 almost, but
yeah.
That 98 team won 114 regular season games.
Yeah. They had the record till the Mariners, right?
Yeah. That team in the American League East, which was very good.
Yep. Yeah, they just were so confident.
Yeah, like that was like Scott Brocious was their 9-hitter.
Yeah,
and he was the World Series MVP. Like that was a really good team.
Yeah, the catcher can hit in Posada.
Yeah, Posada and Strawberry.
And Strawberry's there. That's right. They have all those guys.
Chili Davis. Like they had guys everywhere.
And they had so much confidence. And of course, these are the teams that, like Joe Torre would say, as long as we're winning in the 7th, we're going to win because our bullpen is going to shut them down completely.
Is that when they had Rivera setting up Wetland?
No, this was gone by
Rivera's there. This is like Mendoza.
Oh, okay.
Stanton, Nelson
was there. Nelson, Graham Lloyd.
Yeah.
And that pen was incredible.
Yeah, and El Duque was their 5th starter.
That's right. Yeah, El Duque in there as well.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next and only one left I have is a baseball team as well. I'm going to take the Big Red Machine of 1976. It is an incredible lineup.
Yep.
They had 7 pitchers on that team won at least 11 games. 7. There was a ton. They had 2 unbelievable relievers. Same thing, Raleigh Eastwick and Pedro Borbon. But all 8 of their hitters, remember there's no DH back then in the National League, all 8 of their hitters had OPS plus of at least 107.
Yeah.
There was not a guy in their lineup who was a below average. They were all above average hitters. And like Pete, there's like a bunch of guys.
I'd
who
say
were in
like
the Hall of Fame.
was like Concepcion like their worst hitter, and he was still decent.
Yeah, he's the guy who makes it 107 is the lowest.
Yeah.
And he only that year had 28 doubles and 21 steals. Like he was their worst hitter.
Yeah.
And an unbelievable defensive player. They had Joe Morgan, Tony Perez, Pete Rose, Ken Griffey Sr., Johnny Bench.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable. There's 4 Hall of Famers on the team and a couple other guys who are close.
And a good bench.
And a good bench. Like
Yep.
they had Dan Dreesen, and that was a really, really good team and a kind of a legendary team. So I'm taking them.
Yep, that's a good pick. So, Matt, who do you got? Do you have to?
I
you
think
have left?
I've got basketball's my
Yeah.
only one left, so I will take the 95-96 Bulls.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
72 regular season wins and a championship. I don't think I have to defend the pick. Jordan, Pippen, Rodman.
No, you don't.
You don't have to defend that pick. Definitely the one I consider there in basketball was the 93-94 Knicks, because they were trying to emulate basically what the Pistons were.
Well, how about the 03-04 Pistons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too. That's
Defensively, that was an.
Did you guys all pick already?
No, I got one more.
no.
Sandy
I got one more.
one left.
I'm just putting down Matt. Matt, you said 95-96 minutes? Was that
no,
Bulls?
I said
Sorry?
95-96 Bulls.
Bulls, sorry, yeah, Bulls. I said there. Okay, tracking these. So we pass these on. Here we go. All right, I'm the archivist.
And you
of
got the
show.
spiders.
I have the spiders. Yeah, I definitely do. I was kind of heartbroken I didn't get them, so it was tough for me.
Yeah.
When you see in football, I guess we all went in the same path, which is defensively, the collection that came together for this team, the Legion of Boom, the 2013 Seahawks. You had Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch on offense, which is no slouch at all, but Bobby Wagner, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett, Chancellor even, like it just keeps going. That defense was insane. And you just didn't win in Seattle that year at all. And they crushed everybody, and I think that's going to be my pick for the scariest NFL opponent.
I'm surprised nobody picked Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
Okay.
And nobody took the 2000 Ravens either, which might be the best.
They're on that list too.
When Madden coached that team, it was all about beating the crap out of people.
Yeah.
I had the Ravens on the list, but I was swayed because the Seahawks had a better offense. I mean, I know I'm a huge Trent Dilfer fan, but I felt that beyond Priest Holmes and Ray Lewis, which is a great comment. Was it Ray Lewis? Yeah.
I thought maybe the 27 Yankees just for Murderers Row.
Yeah.
For Halloween.
Yeah.
Somebody might have.
I was thinking Jamal Lewis and Priest Holmes were the two running backs for the Ravens, that team. But beyond that, the receiving core wasn't much, and Dilfer won the Super Bowl. But that defense was insane, Ray Lewis. What's in that? Who'd you have? Sorry, Matt. Sorry, who'd you say?
Oh, no, just the Murderers. Like, I'm
yeah.
surprised no one took the Yankees 27.
Yep.
Another team I looked at for baseball that nobody picked was the 95 Cleveland team, too, in baseball.
That was on my list, a short list,
with
too.
Albert Bell and Manny and Lofton and Tomey and Paul Sorrent, like Omar Vizquel, Eddie Murray. That was an unbelievable lineup, too.
How about the 98? Well, Sandy, you took the 98 Yankees. What about the 98 Atlanta Braves just for their rotation?
For the rotation, yeah.
Maddox, Glavine,
Yep.
Wood, Smoltz, Nagel.
Yeah.
It's the hardest one was baseball because it's non-contact. So I was like, when I was thinking of scary, I was always thinking how much you get beat up.
I know. Or I was trying to think of was there a team that had like a couple of relievers that threw at people, or you know what I mean?
I feel like the Mets, the '86 Mets thought of the '86 Mets. I was like, you're a little afraid of these guys because they don't know what's going on. But that was like the '90 Reds. Their bullpen. You're like, these guys there's a screw loose with a few of these guys.
Nuts. Yeah.
Dibble and Charlton. So we've got a situation where we got to get judged here now. Who has the best lineup? And this is going to be our first. What's scary? Sorry, scariest lineup. Sorry, not the best. Who has the oldest pick? I think was the category. And this is the first time we're going to have a judge back on the show. We've almost done a year. This judge was very successful the first time they were here, so we're going to have this judge come back to the show.
That's right.
And here we go.
Okay. Whoa. Well, we had a scary draft for our scariest opponents. So now we're going to have a scary judging. The Grim Reaper, perhaps. Maybe that's a judge. I don't know. Okay, host of Canada Now on Sirius XM, Canada Talks, Channel 167. Monday to Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. And the Remembering Podcast on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Our guest judge is the first judge to return to the show after 27 episodes.
For the love of God, you're really committing to the spooky voice. I applaud that.
Jeff just left.
Keep this throughout the whole thing, because
don't forget,
you're one of the most committed actors and improvisers I've ever seen. So I'm expecting this to last like right to the end.
Don't forget
I can't believe
more
you're
about
here.
the current podcast, Remembering Podcast. Visit rememberingpodcast.com.
I'm now scared of my own podcast because of your voice.
Not edu.com. Here he is, Jeff Sammut.
Hold for applause.
Thank you.
That was good. You were really committed to that. I mean,
I had to do it, Jeff, because you really commit to judging on this show.
Well, you didn't scare me off from coming back onto the show to keep with the theme. That's the best I'm going to do.
Not yet.
Well, we loved having you here last time. We got tons of positive feedback last time you were here. We just had to have you back. And talking about committing, you commit to the information, you commit to judging thoroughly. So we're very excited to have you here.
Yeah.
So for those who can't see, some of you don't watch the YouTube channel, they're listening on the podcast. Some of the pictures behind you, got a couple hockey players back there, and a couple of that. What do you got?
Let's see. I got Billy Smith right there.
Oh yeah,
Mike likes that.
Phil Esposito over there.
Nice.
I got Willie O'Ree over there.
Nice.
Good.
We got two Pierre Turgeons. I'm an Islanders fan.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I got the late Mike Bossy right over there. Mike
Oh man, you're singing my song.
Yeah, I got. Let's see. I got Bobby Baugh above him, which just kind of blocked out by the glare off the picture. I got Bobby Hall above him there. And over there, I got Kirk Muller.
Yeah.
Not on purpose. Nothing against him. And Dennis Savard is over there because that's all like one big picture. I had a program autographed by all of them. So they because Mike Bossy was in it,
you
kept it. Frame the whole thing.
Yeah, well, that's how it works.
You don't want to cut it out. You know what I mean?
No.
So
Friend of the podcast, Pierre Turgeon.
Yes.
No, I have never spoken to Pierre Turgeon.
We had him on for his birthday.
Yeah. Get out.
Yeah. So friend of the show, not a listener to the show, Jeff Sammut. But
he's a fan of Pierre Turgeon than me. I got a Turgeon jersey upstairs.
Yeah. You're going to love it because he was in his car in Utah. Where was he? In Park City, Utah, I think it was. And he had just gone golfing and he was in his car and it looked like he left his own birthday party to talk to us. We reviewed his favorite players that he ever played with. And that was the teams he had to judge were his favorite players starting.
No, that's a great episode. I got to go back and hear that one. That's awesome.
He couldn't have been a nicer guy too.
Wow. Didn't he win? Wasn't he a baseball player as well as a kid? Like, didn't he win the Little League World Series or something crazy like that?
I don't know.
That might be accurate because we were at one point we were looking at I think that's right because we were looking at multi-sport athletes and we were going to try to stretch it that Turgeon had played pretty high level as a kid.
Yeah, well,
I think that's correct, and then we decided to change it to be more about him.
Turgeon. Oh man, I loved Pierre Turgeon. Loved him.
Yep.
Goodness.
Right. Here's his great stat is I believe he's still the only NHL player to score at least 80 points in a season for 4 different teams.
Yeah. Wow. So would that be Buffalo, the Islanders, Montreal, St. Louis?
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Because he had a cup of coffee with Dallas towards the end.
Colorado. Yeah.
Colorado. Boy, I forgot about Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a lot of players to choose from for his 3 starting lineups to choose from. And I mean, he was talking about captains like, Dallas too. So he had Modano, he had Sakic, he had all these great players who played with, but he was very positive and he was very excited to talk about the players he played with, like a classy guy who made it about them,
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me.
No. And it was very friendly, but it's not friendly now.
No.
This is
scary opponents.
And the three of you, I remember the last time I judged the reaction I got.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 of you wanted to kill me. It was pretty, I felt it. I couldn't wait to get off the Zoom call, to be honest.
Yeah, that's how it gets. It gets heated.
Yeah, because the stakes are so high.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of money on the line here.
A lot of money here. I feel like I'm deciding one's fate. Like I thought like one or two of you were gonna die or something after that episode. I thought it was an execution was gonna happen or something.
That's what people tune in to hear when they.
It felt great to win. So we have.
You have to get that in. I wouldn't say it.
We have these three teams of the scariest opponents for a Halloween episode, which is today. And just to review, Team 1, 88-89 Detroit Pistons Bad Boys, 75 Reds, 76 Steelers, the early 80s Bruins. Team 2.
Now, 76 Steelers? 76 Steelers?
Yeah.
Yes.
75?
No.
That's what I thought too.
No, 76 Steelers, because by that time, now I'm giving away who this is. Because, and by the way, I also want to clarify, I picked the 76 Reds, not the 75 Reds. But the 76 Steelers, because in 76, Jack Lambert was Defensive Player of the Year. So that gave the Steelers that year 3 Defensive Players of the Year on the same roster. That's why I picked the 76 team. I know they didn't win the Super Bowl that year, but I picked the defense because of that little statistical anomaly. That's why.
Yeah. You mean Joe Green being another one of those?
Joe Green and Mel Blount, too.
Okay. Yeah.
But feel free to hold it against them that they didn't win that year. Because the 76, that's when Blount had the 11 interceptions, which I think was an incredible season. But
well, they're no Cleveland Spiders, Matt, but that's an excellent point.
Okay, so I know who's who.
So that is Team 1.
I've written notes, and it's all predetermined.
Okay.
Team 2, 95-96 Bulls, 1899 Cleveland Spiders, scary bad, 1995 Bears, 74-75 Capitals, and then Team 3 is the 85-86 Celtics, 1998 Yankees, 2013 Seahawks, Legion of Boom, and the 74-75 Flyers, Broad Street Boys. Those are all the teams we've exposed to everybody seems to be, but Jeff,
there was another one. Team 2, 95 Bears or 85 Bears?
Sorry,
85 Bears.
It is 85.
Yeah.
So what you can clearly see with Team 2 is they couldn't decide what direction to go in. Like,
I think that
some scary teams, but also some really shitty teams. Like, it's all over the place, really.
Yeah.
I think that
85 Bears makes a lot more sense.
Sandy's scary typing skills.
That's it. Go certain letters.
Because I went and looked up the 95 Bears, and I was like, there is nothing at all.
Sorry about that, but I'm sure you've heard of
the 95 Bears. Like, it was so like a forgotten year for the Chicago Bears. I was like, must be the 85 Bears.
Yeah.
But I was wrong about the Steelers. I thought it was the 75 Steelers.
Yeah.
Well, I understand why you thought that, but I'm just explaining why I picked 76 instead.
Okay.
Yeah. So we made this clarification to those typos. It's probably all the time we've got for you, Jeff. Thanks so much for being on here.
Based on the winner is I want to get into I want to break this down.
Okay, jump into whatever you want to start with.
I want to break this down. Now, of course, this is just one person's opinion, but you've invited me as
that's why you're here.
So but all of this is debatable. All of this, believe me, 18 years in sports radio, everything seems to be up for debate. Okay, so how do you want to do this? Do you want to go team by team? Do you want to go league by league?
It's really up to you. If you want to go
league by league
with team. Yeah, league by league.
Go sport by sport. Yeah, because then you can compare them.
Okay, let's go sports by sports / league by league. Okay, so we'll start with basketball. And team 1 with the 88-89 Detroit Pistons, the Bad Boys. Now you look at their record, 63-19. Can't argue with that. The second best record that year were the Cavs, 57-25. And they imagine coming in second and you won 57 games in the NBA. So that is quite a feat for the Bad Boys of the Pistons in 88-89. Then you look at team 2 and they got the 95-96 Bulls, 72-10. Okay. Now success plays a huge factor in whether or not you're scared of a team. Sure. Okay. It's not the physicality of the Bad Boys with the Pistons in 88-89, but the Bulls 72-10. Second best were the Sonics with just 64. But if we want to talk toughness and we want to talk fear on the court, they did have Dennis Rodman. So I think that has to be factored in to the 95-96 Bulls. And team 3 had the 85-86 Celtics. looking at the records, 67-15. The Lakers with the second most at 62. I mean, the Celtics, I mean, they could play physical. They could beat you in a number of ways in those days. But in looking at the three, I had to go with the 95-96 Bulls. Maybe that's in part because that is a team that I would have seen a lot of. But for me, Dennis Rodman, the record speaks for itself. But Dennis Rodman put that over the top because it's twofold. You're scared of this team because they could beat you, but they were really tough because they had Dennis Rodman. So I went with the 95-96 Bulls as the best of those three, the scariest of those three.
Can I just say, incredible job so far. Just incredible.
Got to break this down.
I'm
Okay.
curious, is that the only player who's on two different teams that are on these lists?
Might be, yeah.
Unless somebody with the Cleveland Spiders all of a sudden popped up almost 100 years later with the Yankees.
I think
Don Zimmer was on both those teams in some way.
Thank you.
Also, Pete Rose, I think, started with the Spiders early.
Yeah,
probably. I think so. I think he was a rookie. I think he was a rookie with the Spiders, and at just about 80 years old with the Reds, maybe more than that. Okay, let's go to baseball.
Okay,
let's go to the 75 Reds.
76 is right? That was a mistake there, too.
75. All right.
Very similar team, but
76 Reds. Okay. The Big Red Machine. I mean, they dominated. I mean, I think I pulled numbers from 75, but 108 wins, 64-17 at home. No one else had 100 wins that year. I mean, the World Series opponent had 95 wins that year, but nevertheless, that era of the Reds, they were called the Big Red Machine for a reason, and they kept that team intact for quite some time. Team 2, in fact, I would say that they partially would have really described baseball. They would really be the face of baseball in the 70s. Many people would think of baseball in the 70s, and they would think of the Big Red Machine. Team 2, the 1899 Cleveland Spiders. Okay. Points for creativity, but I don't think it's going to be enough here to win it. I went and looked them up. Scary bad. Now, is it because of the moniker of Spiders that they were so scary, or because of their record? Because 5 teams had less wins than they did, and one even had 61 as they did. So they weren't even the worst team in baseball that year. 5 teams were worse than they were, and one team tied them. So what is it about them that was so scary? Are they? Are they haunting you now, Matt, in your dreams? What is it that is scaring you about the 1899 Spiders?
It is partially the name Spiders. I found that that's kind of a scary name.
Sure.
And I did think, with 20 wins and 134 losses, that's not great. I think that would be very scary if you bought a ticket and you were heading out hoping for a great day of baseball, see your team win.
All right, then maybe then the numbers I found were not correct.
I could be wrong. I'm looking here. I'm seeing 20 for the 1899 Cleveland Spiders. Baseball Reference, they got 20 wins and 134 losses.
Yeah, that is correct. And they were clearly the worst team in the league that year.
Okay, because what I saw, man, I don't know. Then I'm questioning what I saw. But I saw that a number of other teams had a worse year than they. Maybe I punched.
You must have read the wrong thing. I got it here in the National League. The second worst team, the Spiders were 12th. The Washington Senators,
54,
54 and 98.
Okay, that really is scary bad. Okay, so I'll stand corrected on that. Maybe I typed in the wrong year feverishly, getting ready for this. But all right.
I think probably Jeff, as a fan of the Brooklyn Superbas, you were probably just like couldn't believe there was another team in the league. You're blinded by your fandom.
I was like, what other teams? It's Brooklyn and
Chicago Orphans.
All right,
and the Louisville Colonels. Yeah,
I think the league itself was really scary based on the names that they picked at that time. All right, so maybe I looked at the wrong numbers for that, so I apologize for that. Completely blowing my credibility from here on out.
Not asked back again for a third time after that.
Not asked back. No, not at all. I wouldn't have me back either. 98 Yankees, team 3. Now I'm a Yankees fan. So, and I'm wearing an Atlanta Braves hat at the moment, but I'm a Yankees fan at heart. 114 wins, 62-19 at home. I mean, you win 62 games at home. You're going to be, that's going to be scary. By the way, weird coincidence. I just heard David Wells on the radio in a show that was over the weekend, recalling the 98 World Series, and he was talking about the 98 World Series. So it's weird that we talk about the 98 Yankees here. But I am still sticking with the Big Red Machine. I think that's the team to look at in baseball amongst those three. Okay, football. All right, so we're going with the 76 Steelers. We're going with the 76 Steelers here. But I mean, just from reputation alone from the year before, 12-2. So were two other teams, but a 214-point differential, the best in franchise history, and that still holds up. They won by at least 21 points 6 times, and you talk about their defensive prowess that just seemed to get better in 76. The 85 Bears, 46-10. They won the Super Bowl 46-10. Probably one of the worst Super Bowls that I've ever seen, that I can remember. But they were 15-1 in the regular season. They lost to the Dolphins. That was the one game they lost. The best defense in the NFL. They beat the Giants, and I remember that because I'm a Giants fan. They beat the Giants and the Rams a combined 45-0 in 2 playoff games. 45-0. So in 3 playoff games, they outscored their opponents 91-10. That was in the playoffs. So I think a case is made for the Chicago Bears. Team 3, the Legion of Boom, 2013 Seattle Seahawks, 13-3, best D since the 85 Bears, a 186-point differential, a team record. But I don't think there's anybody beating the Bears for the 1985 Bears. So I'm going with Team 2 in the football victory there. And then with hockey, the 80s Bruins, while my New York Islanders were winning Stanley Cups, the early 80s Bruins, they were just beating people up. They had the best record though in 1983. Terry O'Reilly, Wayne Cashman, Stan Jonathan, Jay Miller, some of those players kind of on the way out by then. But they were a really, really tough team. The 87-88 team, 10th overall in penalty minutes. I think some of that has to do with the early 80s Bruins and kind of keeping that going. Scary team to go on the ice with, no doubt. Same can
be in the crowd again to watch too.
Yes, or to be close by. If you have good seats, you're probably going to get punched in the face by the Boston Bruins of the early 80s. The team 2 had the 74-75 Capitals, who were scary bad. Matt, you're going with scary bad again. First season in team history, 8-67-5, the worst individual season in the history of the NHL. But that didn't stop them from beating the Toronto Maple Leafs once that year. Even the worst team ever beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they beat the California Golden Seals a couple of times, but they beat the all-time worst 446 goals against. So, yeah, that was a really, really bad team. Then team 3, the 74-75 Flyers, of course, the Broad Street Bullies, Bobby Clark, Dave Schultz, the Hammer, NHL record for penalty minutes in 74-75. Again, I'm going by defining a decade, and I think the Flyers in part did that with the Broad Street Bullies. Of course, that was a big thing that the media like to talk about as well in talking about the Flyers. I got to go with them for hockey. I got to go with them, the 74-75 Flyers for hockey. So in handing out victories, team 1 had the Reds in the mid-70s. Team 2 had 95-96 Bulls and the 85 Bears. And team 3 had the 74-75 Flyers. So I think Matt wins with team 2 in this.
What I enjoy
to Matt for the Cleveland Spiders.
Oh, Matt deserved the win because he picked 2 very obvious picks, but then picked 2 very completely out there picks. So he had 2 different strategies, and though the attempt to be original didn't work as well as the obvious picks, I have to give him credit for at least thinking of the concept of scary bad, which I think is a good choice.
I do want to throw out the competition's over. I just want to shout out for the 74-75 Washington Capitals. I also read that their coach Jim Anderson had to resign because of stomach ulcers from the stress of coaching that team. I think I feel bad for him, but I think that kind of has to add to when your play is actually now causing people stomach ulcers.
Totally.
Yeah.
He didn't even want to go to the rink.
But
when did the
Sam?
Capitals turn it around at all? Like, I mean, it really took forever for the Capitals, wasn't it? I mean, I feel like when was the beginning of something? Wasn't that almost, honestly, wasn't it until really the 90s that they turned it into something, and they had that series against the Penguins when they were up on the Penguins, and they came all the way back and put them out. I think they were down 3-1 in the series, and then the Penguins won 3 in a row and took them out, and they had some bad luck there, obviously, but
Yeah.
Well, I mean, talking about Pierre Turgeon, I hated the Washington Capitals because of the old Patrick Division rivalry, but I hated them because of Dale Hunter and what he did to Pierre Turgeon in '93.
Yeah, cheap
with
shot.
that cheap shot, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I hated them for that, but they were, they had times where they were good, but not great. It wasn't until Ovechkin came along and really put them over the top that you really were, let's go with the theme, scared of facing the Washington Capitals because they had Ovi.
They had, they reached the conference finals for the first time in 1990 and got swept by the Bruins. That was their first real run in the playoffs.
I remember Peter Bondra was pretty good. Did they have a good team, or was he just good back in the day?
He was a great player on good teams, I think.
He was, yeah.
Looking at their history, so 82-83 is the first time they made the playoffs. They lost to the Islanders, but they beat the Flyers the next season, and then they lost to the Islanders, and then they lost to the Islanders, and then they beat the Islanders in 85-86, and then they lost to the Rangers. So they actually had a run of playoffs. I didn't realize in the 80s.
Yeah. Their best player in 1990 when they reached the conference finals was Dino Ciccarelli.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Dino Ciccarelli. Boy, I remember him as much as a Minnesota North Star.
It was
Red Wing later on.
In my recollection, it was that 94-95 team. That was the team, I believe. Yeah, I think they were up 3-1 on the Penguins, and the Penguins came back and won 3 in a row and took them out. That was a big, crushing, Washington moment when they couldn't win that one.
I want to go back to the Cleveland Spiders for a moment and
great.
Figure out what I did. I looked up the 1889 Cleveland Spiders. They had
common mistake, I think.
Yeah, everybody does that. It's the same
everybody
thing
confuses
the Super Boss
Spiders. I'm one of many.
Yeah, I can just rattle off that starting lineup, even the bullpen.
Oh man, yeah.
The number of times I've been in the bar and heard another table. Are you guys talking about the Cleveland Spiders? What year?
Oh yeah.
You know what really turned things around for the Cleveland Spiders? They had Cy Young.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They went and they had Cy Young on their club for a number of years. And I don't know this, but I'm looking this up and seeing this. And it really turned things around. And then all of a sudden Cy Young wasn't around anymore.
Yeah.
And they lost. They won only 20 games.
Yeah.
Well, that Spiders was on the table to come back to instead of the Guardians. They almost came back as the Spiders. It was definitely in the short list to go back to.
That would have been good.
I've got to ask though, Jeff, were there any teams that you were surprised weren't on our lists in these sports? Where you're like, oh wow, surprised we didn't see like the Murderers Row 27 Yankees or something like that.
Yeah, I guess if we're talking about dominant teams,
yeah,
I mean the 27.
Well, some of us are.
Some of us only focused on that.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean the 27 Yankees. For sure. I mean, had you not put the Bulls in there, but see, and I'm thinking of the Lakers in the 80s, but they had the Celtics, right? It was always them firing back at each other. They always had each other. So yeah, no, I mean, the 27 Yankees, I would think would have been a team, to think about, but including the 98 Yankees, I think is genius because they I think they played the Padres. They crushed the Padres.
Yeah.
That
was a genius pick. That really was quite. I mean, that really was a genius pick.
Not a good enough pick to win.
No, really not. Well, a few of the teams that came up in football, the 2000 Ravens came up just for that defense. Obviously, that was huge. Not so much for Trent Dilfer, but for the defense.
Yeah, I'm a Giants fan, so I didn't like that team.
We talked about the 1995 Cleveland for baseball. I was with Lofton and Bell and Tomei and all those guys, and that was the year the Braves won their World Series finally in the 90s. But that was a big one.
Yeah.
Once I was also thinking we talked to the Bruins in the 80s. We also talked. I didn't really get into the Devils. I felt like those mid 90s Devils were also pretty scary. Like Scott Stevens could end your career in about 3 seconds. So
yeah, and that was in a time like where like remember Scott Stevens like the hit on Eric Lindros. Like it was scary that they had some of those players existed at that time, and the clutch and grab and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because there were a number of those hits. And Scott Stevens delivered a lot of those that were like career ending or career threatening, career curbing.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly. There are some that would say like Eric Lindros was never the same after that. Paul Correa getting hit was
and on top of that, you're in New Jersey. That's scary too.
You want to get out of there as quickly as possible, right?
If you get hurt, you have to go to the hospital in New Jersey.
Yes. That's true.
That's terrifying.
But I think you could stick around and see a Bon Jovi concert.
Even worse.
Right in the pocket.
By the way, I joked that Don Zimmer might have been on the Cleveland Spiders. There was a Charles Zimmer on the Cleveland Spiders.
Oh, well, they were close enough.
The older brother.
Maybe it was like
he usually has relatives on the page there.
Just older than Don Zimmer. Maybe
I did also consider in the NHL the 91-92 Sabres. You know, when they had May and Ray.
Oh,
and I think that was the team that set the record for like team penalty minutes. But I know if you were playing hockey on your Sega around that year and you took off line changes and just made sure both May and Ray were out there, you were going to get in some Donnybrooks.
They were my fourth line. If I wanted to just hurt somebody, I put out my fourth line. And
this has been
fight, right?
Continuing debate in that version of Sega, because I loved playing the Sabres in those years. You could not take off line changes. Like you just had to have one line the Sabres. You wanted LaFontaine and Andrechuk and McGillney and all those guys, but you took that off. And I think Fuhr was the goalie, perhaps, but line changes, you were dead.
Yeah.
As many fights as you want, you're gonna lose 8-1.
Oh yeah. That team was, my brother was a Sabres fan. So back then, whenever the Islanders played the Buffalo Sabres, it was like, there's going to be a fight. Like Mick Vukota is going to fight somebody.
Nice name. Nice reference right there.
Very good.
Like, I remember can I tell you a story about fighting? I'll try to remember this best I can. And I can't remember exactly what year. I don't know. I'm terrible with years and remembering, but remember when there was Michael Pekka with the Islanders and Darcy Tucker was with the Leafs. I think Darcy Tucker
injured him.
Smoked him, right?
Yeah.
Well, then they met in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I was working the playoffs. Like I was the visiting, like whenever teams came to Toronto, I would be the radio producer for the visiting team's broadcast. Mm-hmm. So I would work with the New York Islanders at the time. And I was an Islanders fan. So my boss would always be like, you're working the Islanders games. Don't worry. If they face the Leafs. So I got to be at that playoff series. And I remember being in the booth with the visiting radio announcers. And Jim Cummins I think he was with Chicago for a while, but then he was with the Islanders. And he was with the Islanders that year, and he was in the press box. And then something happened. There was some kind of melee or whatever, and Jim Cummins just stood up, and he was sitting next to me. They invited him into the booth to sit with us, I guess because there weren't enough spots. So they were like, you could sit with us. So he sat in the booth, and he was seeing what was going on the ice. And he looked at me, he says, if I was out there, and he was telling me about, I would grab Darcy Tucker, I would do, and he was talking about all these terrible things he was going to do, especially to Darcy Tucker. And he was telling me stories about how much everybody hates Darcy Tucker around the NHL. Wow, cool. All right. Well, the next game, they suited Jim Cummins for the game, and they put him out for the opening faceoff. And I was like, oh no, this is going to be bad. And he dropped a glove immediately, and he started fighting everybody, and he was thrown out of the game, if memory serves. And I remember being like, oh my God, he told me all these things he was going to do if he was on the ice, and he did like half of them. He would have done all of them if they had let him go, but he went and did all those things. So Jim Cummins would have been a guy that I would have been really afraid of if he had heard all the things that he said to me in the booth.
Yeah. That's a less like famous version of calling your shot, I guess. But that's he totally said he was going to do, and he totally did it. But we know that those guys have a switch that you don't want to be on the other side of at any time.
It was his job. He considered it his job, right? I got to go out there and I got to put the fear of God into everybody. Yeah. And so he went and did that in game 2. I could not tell you who won the game. I don't remember. I only remember Jim Cummins the night before saying, "Boy, if I was out there." And the next day, seeing him on the ice, and I looked at the guys and I said, "He's on the ice now. This can't be good." And they obviously put him out there so that he could, do what he did.
Yeah,
he did it.
He got 30 seconds or less in the playoffs. Was that a playoff game?
I think that was it. I don't think he showed up again in the series.
The message was delivered, I guess.
Totally. That's all they did.
Well, because it's Halloween, you've come here to put the fear of God in us too, Jeff. But thank you so much for Mike. If you're watching on YouTube, Mike's face hasn't changed at all.
I'm frozen.
I thought you were frozen. Oh well. Yeah, I'll stop that.
Just dead inside. When you start doing that voice, I just shut down.
Mike's got to go get his Halloween costume on, Jeff. So we want to make sure he gets out of here.
I need a full day to get ready. Yeah,
he's going to go dressed as Jim Cummins.
That's it.
That's right. Now I am.
Matt's going to be dressed as the number 12. And what did I say? I was talking earlier about my favorite Halloween costume. It wasn't the mummy because I did the mummy and the toilet paper all fell off.
No, you were the guy from the
silver snail guy. Yeah. That doesn't play anymore. No one really cares about that guy anymore.
Jeff, do you want in? We were just talking about our favorite Halloween costumes ever. Do you have one
that one has worn that you?
Yeah, you've worn. Yeah.
One year I went out as Wolverine, and I never do that. I never. Yeah. Like a comic book character or whatever, like even Superman, it was like overdone, too over the top. But one year I went out as Wolverine. I got really good feedback on that. So
you got good feedback. Okay.
I did. I got good feedback on that. So I gotta work on that again.
Positive note.
Sounds great.
Jeff, thanks so much for coming back to the show. First time we've had a judge back and you've delivered again. Have a great Halloween. You got to get the kids out there, get them dressed up and get them out there. You got to give out the candy. You got a big night ahead of you. So do we, right, Mike?
You betcha.
All right, Jeff, take care. Thanks so much. And come back again a third time.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm here. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You're the best, man. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye now.
Okay. Made it back. We all came back alive on Halloween.
We made it.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Scarred but alive. Fantastic picks. There, and as we said at the end, and as was said there's a lot of other teams you could have taken there considered scariest, and a lot of different ways you say what is scary. Bad, scary, intimidating, scary, what is it? Skillful, Mm-hmm. So let me quickly, because it's Halloween. Mike, what's the best Halloween costume you ever had? Do you like to dress up?
No.
Not surprising.
I haven't worn a Halloween costume. Oh, one year when I was in university, my roommates and I dressed up. We dressed like a hair metal band. We created a fictional metal band.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we went and got wigs and tights and all the cheesy headband stuff. Like we were like a Poison.
Yeah.
But I think we were called Thruster.
I was going to ask you, what'd you call yourself? Thruster.
That was pretty good. That was fun.
Matt, how about you? You like to dress up?
Yeah. In Winnipeg, you'd want to just be something warm. But I think one of my favorites was 12. I went as the number 12. It was an old 12. It was actually from an old arena.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I like to dress up for Halloween.
Yeah.
I thought about dressing up today. Actually, I just wore the Frightenstein instead. 1 year there was a store in Toronto, a comic book shop called the Silver Snail.
Yeah,
it's a big comic shop in Toronto.
Famous.
And they had a picture for a very long time of a person who shoplifted there. And they wrote on the picture they had a picture of this guy, had long hair, mustache, he had this little like saddlebag leather jacket, and they wrote on the picture, "I'm an asshole, I steal, kill me." And so I went to their Halloween party, dressed as that guy, and my T-shirt said, "I'm an asshole, I steal, kill me." And it was hilarious because people were like, "What? Who is this?" What? They're all thinking it's a comic book character, except for the people who work there were like, "That's the guy that steals from our store." That was one of my smarter ones.
I have gone as the same thing for the past 7 years or so.
The number 12.
No. Sandy, remember when I went to that garage sale? I sent you a picture because I was so excited that I got that fencing.
The fencing.
I got the mask and the outfit and the sword and everything.
Yeah.
I was going to take it up. Never did, but every year, if you need a last-minute Halloween contest,
For sure.
throw that mask on.
Or New Zealand.
New Zealand, what a great costume! I saw that actually at Party City this year. The New Zealand costume. They were fully stocked.
What's weird is they have his Americans uniform.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
it's a rare one. It's a rare one. It's a real. It's nice. It's nice. It's to shake it up because everyone got so tired of all the New Zealand costumes.
man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's like the slutty nurse.
Well. Okay. Well, on that.
On that note.
that note. Yeah, we'll close it out here. That has been the Halloween edition of This Day in Sports. I'm Sandy Jobin Bevins.
I'm Matt Kippen.
I'm Mike Shera.
Have yourself a great Halloween.